Hey everyone, so for this video I will be talking about 30 movies, being as that is how old I will be this year. I will be 30 years old, so there is a chance that I may spoil a couple of them, and if you don't want those particular films spoiled for you, check the timestamps in the description, and yeah, you can avoid getting the film spoiled that way. Hey everyone, before today's video begins, I just want to give a quick disclaimer. I do apologise for being away for so long. It's been a tough couple of weeks, but I'm back now. And I also apologise for the audio on this video because I filmed the entire thing and then realised that my microphone was broken. So there was no way I was re-recording the entire thing, so I decided just to go out and just buy another one. And my keyboard decided to break as well, which caused even more delays, but both pieces of equipment have been replaced now. So yeah, please enjoy the video. What's up everyone? Yeah, I've been gone quite a while. As you can probably tell, I have mental health issues, so I needed to take a bit of time to chill out a bit, and yeah. So, I said that I'd make this video on Instagram, and I'm not going to structure or edit this video the same way that I would normally do some of my ranking videos. I'm just gonna make something to get me into the flow of making videos again, and then I will eventually go back and work on that Love Alarm video, which I had to postpone because the story of that show is very, very similar to a real life experience of mine, which recently came back and said, hey, remember me? And I was like, no, okay. I need to settle down and just go back to it when I can. So, yeah, this is a video of movies from every year that I've been alive, like my favourite of each year. So it goes from 1991, which is the year I was born, up until 2020. I'm not going to rank a 2021 movie just yet because the year's not over. But if anyone's curious, I suppose at the moment, at this precise moment in time, I would pick Raya and the Last Dragon. But yeah, that is going to change. I'm also very aware that this is not an original idea, that it's been done and milked to death, but I'm going to do it anyway because I've always wanted to do my own version of this. So let's kick off the list at 1991, the year of my birth, with Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Now I thought Terminator 2 Judgment Day is probably one of those rare sequels which surpasses the original. I wouldn't say it's 10 times better, but it is one of the best action films that I've ever seen in my life, and it just topped a lot of things in terms of action, story, humanising Arnold Schwarzenegger's T-800. Yeah, humanised his character, and yeah, I just thought overall the film was better. I mean, if I had to pick an action film to watch on some kind of deserted island where it's just me, and I only have one action film to watch for the rest of my entire life, it'd probably be Terminator Judgment Day. 1992, I'm going to go with Aladdin. Now, there's something about Aladdin which just brings me back to watch it over and over again. I think it's down to the fact of Robin Williams' iconic performance as the genie. That is just such a standout. Like, when you think of Aladdin, the first thing that pops into your head isn't actually the character of Aladdin. Like, to me, the first person I think of in particular is the genie. Like, such an iconic performance, such, iconic songs as well. And yeah, the remake can pretty much trashed all of that, so let's just pretend the remake doesn't even exist. Aladdin is a classical tale which I will keep revisiting time and time again until I grow old and grey. And yeah, so Aladdin, great film. 1993 is without doubt Steven Spielberg's masterpiece, that is Jurassic Park. Now this is probably the first film I saw which gave me the intriguing idea of a dinosaur and human coexistence, and I think it's done it the best. I mean, there are other things out there which try and, bring these two elements together, like something which you would just never see in real life. That's like dinosaurs living among us. I mean, I know, the Good Dinosaur tried to do something similar with this, and I complained about that in my own video. I said that the concept was complete and utter bollocks, and it was. Yeah, but there's also other things. I mean, like Dinotopia, I thought did it pretty well as well. I mean, the TV show isn't actually all that great, but Jurassic Park, there's just something about those, the moments within that film, the Brachiosaurus, the T-Rex, the Raptors, everything about it is just perfect. Some of the most quotable lines ever as well, like especially from Jeff Goldblum. We know life finds a way, and I really hate that, man. Hey Dodson, we got Dodson here. It's just little things like that which make me just quote it every time I see it. Like Jurassic Park is just a fantastic masterpiece, and the special effects, mind you, hold up somewhat better than some of the later films as well. I mean, the special effects in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom are actually pretty impressive, although overall I didn't really enjoy the film all that much. The first half was okay, but if you look back at the special effects on the first Jurassic Park, they look surprisingly better than the first Jurassic World. I mean, and obviously they were using animatronics back in Jurassic Park, and in Jurassic World it was all CGI. But for some reason, the T-Rex in the first Jurassic Park looks better than the T-Rex and the Indominus Rex in Jurassic World. Like, I don't know how that even works, but apparently it does. So yeah, Jurassic Park at 1993. 1994's film broke a million hearts, including my own. That is The Lion King. Now, this is probably one of my most favourite Disney films of all time. Not just in Disney Renaissance, not in just Disney animation, but Disney overall. I mean, if I'm excluding Pixar, then I think The Lion King may be one of my all-time favourites. Not just in Disney as well, but in also animation. There's just so many iconic songs in it, so many iconic characters, amazing voice acting. I mean, we've got James Earl Jones, we've got Rowan Atkinson, Jeremy Irons, Matthew Broderick. There's so many great... Nathan Lane. There are so many great actors in this, and the star power behind the film is amazing. And it's not just that. Like, I think Scar in particular, despite being some kind of animated lion, like, you know instantly that this is the bad guy. I mean, look at him. He's got that evil smile. His mane is black compared to the rest of the lions who have, like, sort of a red, browny sort of mane. He's a brown lion as well. Like, his fur's brown. It's not yellow like the others. So instantly, Scar strikes you as the villain as soon as you look at him. The remake, however, completely failed to do that because they just made an ugly-looking lion and, like, tried to pass that off as Scar, and it was just dog shit, and I hate that film so much. Like, it's unreal how much I hate that film. And yeah, but I know it does have its fans, and that's absolutely fine. If you can enjoy something that I can't, that's great. I'm glad you can find enjoyment out of it. But Lion King, the original, is the only Lion King in my eyes. Like, the remake doesn't even exist as far as I'm concerned. I mean, what was I talking about again? Remake? What remake? 1995, I'm going to choose Toy Story. Now, Toy Story is one of those magical adventures, especially when you watch it as a kid. The very idea that your toys are alive and wandering around in your bedroom and just... Oh, that sounded creepy then. Okay. They live in your bedroom. Don't make it weird. Yeah, so yes, they're alive and they're just doing their own thing. They have a family of their own. They have a little community going on. Woody is the one who's in charge of everybody until Buzz comes along, and then he feels like he's being replaced. So there's some inner conflict there. Like, Woody's jealousy grows so much to the point where he thinks, oh, you know what, I'm going to get rid of this guy to try and get my owner back. And then, you know, it's the whole true meaning of friendship that you learn to accept other people. Like, just because someone else comes into someone you cares about life, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to completely forget about you. And I think that's the moral of the story there. Like, rely on a friend. You got a friend in me, of course. Like, it's so obvious when you think of the song as well. Like, because I remember when I would watch this over and over again on VHS when I was a kid. And I just remember sitting there and just imagining what it would be like if my toys were actually alive. I mean, like, sometimes I would stay out to ridiculous times in the morning just to see if my toys would move, and they never did. Like, don't destroy my vision of this, Pixar. Yeah, but Toy Story overall, as a franchise, every single film is good, if you ask me. Like, every single one is good. Like, Toy Story 2, I think, is my least favourite, and Toy Story 3, probably my favourite. But overall, you will always go back to the original and see it for what it is, and that is an absolute brilliant Pixar film. The visuals looked good when they came out. They're a bit dated now, but you can still watch it for what it was and appreciate it for what it was back then. It's still a great film now, though. 1996 has got to be Mission Impossible. Now, the complexity of this film was a little too much for my tiny, uneducated mind to wrap my head around back when I first watched it. Like, I really didn't understand why people liked it. I thought it was confusing, and none of it made any sense, and, you know, I thought everything about it was a bit wooden. But then when you, after multiple rewatches, which is kind of annoying, like, I like to watch films on first watch and just appreciate it for what it is. Like, don't force me to watch it again, which is what, like, films like Inception and Tenet sort of make you do. Mission Impossible, however, like, you appreciate it so much more once you get the gist of what's going on. And I think one of the best aspects of this entire thing is not just a great performance by Tom Cruise. I mean, I've always had a soft spot in my heart for Tom Cruise. Like, I don't think the guy is overall the best actor in the world, but he's definitely the most entertaining. And then when you see him on screen, you just know that he's going to do some batshit insane stuff, like running and jumping off buildings and stuff like that. But yeah, one of the best aspects of it also is probably the fact that it created, suspense in certain moments where Ethan Hunt will be crawling through vents, and especially the scene where he drops down into that high-tech security room, and then you've got him dangling, just trying his best not to touch the floor because it'll send the sensors off and the alarms will go off, and then there's a bit of sweat dripping from him, and then eventually, like, his pocket knife falls out and then falls on the table. It's just really suspenseful stuff, and you find yourself gripping your seat, sweating yourself because you just don't want this guy to get caught. But it's pretty funny when you look back on it as well, because some of the technology that was used back then in this high tech stuff, you just wouldn't see in modern day films now. Like, if you see a spy film now, more than likely they'll have this completely out of this world sort of technology, sort of thing, like the later Mission Impossible things do, where everything could be done through a phone. But then you look back at the first Mission Impossible, and they're using a normal computer monitor, one of those fat monitors or something like that, which you got in the 90s, which you don't really see now. It was really funny. It's really funny when you watch it as well. Not only that, but the characters are really good. I mean, Luther's a great character as well. I mean, I absolutely love the character of Luther. Tom Cruise is awesome, and the franchise just got better from there. Well, actually, no, it didn't. It took a little decline in Mission Impossible 2, but then started to get better and better, like 3 onwards, if you ask me. Yeah, definitely. 1997, I'm going to go with James Cameron's Titanic. Now, this film topped the box office for so many years because of the special effects, the story, just this huge tragic event in history that was told so beautifully on screen. Great chemistry between Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. Great acting overall. And this is actually one of the first films, well, in fact, the first film that ever made me tear up. I mean, I just watched all these people fall into the water, freezing to death, and then eventually when Rose is like, Jack, I will never let go. Like, I just teared up for the first time. I mean, I know that scene has been memed to death since. Like what? I want to know what you guys think. Comment down below. Was there enough room for Jack on the door as well? Or was Rose just like hugging the entire door to herself and not giving a shit about poor Jack in the water and he's freezing his little arse off? It was funny. But yeah, there are so many great moments in Titanic, like not just from characterization, but the actual disaster itself, showing how the ship split in half, and that it turns out that most of the people on that ship actually died from freezing, more so than actually drowning or getting caught in debris on the ship breaking apart and everything like that. Yeah, so it's a really tragic event in history. And just seeing it on screen and just watching it unfold is actually pretty good. Yeah, I really enjoyed Titanic, and I still watch it this very day. It's a little long, but I suppose it has to be in some sense if you want to go just to the characters. You don't want to just rush straight into the ship breaking apart. Although that can work for some concepts, but in Titanic's case, I think it ended, pretty good. 1998. This is actually a bit of a guilty pleasure for me, as well as my favourite film of the year, but I'm going to go with Armageddon. Now, overall, Michael Bay, as a director, he directs some pretty insane stuff. I mean, there's if you've seen Transformers, you'll get what I'm saying. Crazy, loud characters, crazy, obnoxious characters, large explosions and world-ending shit. It's it's what Michael Bay likes to do, and there's something about Armageddon that just strikes me as just one damn entertaining film. I mean, Bruce Willis, back in his prime anyway, was one of my favourite action stars, and seeing him portray in this film as an oil driller becoming an astronaut, completely untrained, that's just not something that would happen in real life, but it's so dumb that I love it. It's like, don't you want to train real astronauts to do this shit? I mean, you practically got 2 weeks before this asteroid hits the Earth, and what's the first thing you do? I know, I'm going to go hire this oil driller to come and save the world. It's just so dumb, but I don't have any problems with it. It's just entertaining, and yeah. Another film that also made me tear up is also this film, when Bruce Willis's character had to stay behind and detonate the bomb. Yeah, I teared up at that one as well. Yeah, so overall, I think Armageddon is just a fun disaster film. The characters aren't really that memorable. I don't really remember many characters' names other than I know Bruce Willis's character is named Harry, and Ben Affleck's character's name's AJ. Michael Clark Duncan's name is Bear, and Liv Tyler's character cries like she does in any other film. But other than that, yeah, I like Armageddon. Entertaining film. 1999, I'm going to go with Toy Story 2. Now, this is actually my least favourite of the Toy Story franchise, as I stated earlier on in this video. Now, there's something about the film that still stands out to me, and I think it's the fact that Woody is conflicted in whether he should stay with Andy or just go to this museum in Japan with Jessie and Stinky Pete. And it creates this kind of conflict between him and his friends and these new friends that he's made. A decision in life which could completely change things completely. Like, you're probably never going to go back to the way you were. I mean, obviously, if you move to Tokyo as a toy, how the hell are you supposed to go back to the States? It's just not even possible. But it's not only that, it's like a fun family adventure, just watching Buzz and the rest of the toys go on this mission to try and save Woody. You've got a funny performance from Wayne Knight as Big Al. And yeah, probably the only time I've ever laughed at The Empire Strikes Back being referenced is in this film. Like, Buzz, I am your father. It's kind of like when you watch... It's kind of like Star Wars has been memed to death at this point, but I think one of the best reference pull-offs and like parody versions of Star Wars is definitely that scene in Toy Story 2. Really funny stuff. The year 2000, I'm going to go with Unbreakable, the M. Night Shyamalan, blah, 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 I think I pronounced his name right. Yep, his film, the first in the Unbreakable trilogy. Now, obviously, what I like most about Unbreakable is the fact that it's sort of a psychological thriller. There's no, like, high-intense action going on like that. It's just purely based on psychological thrills. And it pretty much paints the picture of wherever there's a hero, there is also a villain. And David Dunn, played by Bruce Willis, is the hero of this story. And then you've got Samuel L. Jackson's character, Mr. Glass, who is the villain of the story. And it's like, wherever there's good, there is also evil. And I think that's what the whole point of the story was trying to tell. Now, I thought the writing was really clever. I don't really remember that much about it because I've only seen it once, and that was back in 2018 when I was preparing for my review of Glass. So I had to watch Unbreakable as well as Split, and so I'm sorry if I'm babbling on and not really mentioning that many key points to this film, but I just remember really, really enjoying this. Like, it may change on rewatch, but, you know, opinions can change, but of what I remember of Unbreakable, I remember really enjoying it, really enjoying the characters, and then Glass sort of, like, pissed it all up the toilet, and David Dunn dies from a muddy puddle. I'll let that sink in. The hero of our story dies from a muddy puddle. Fuck you, Peppa Pig. 2001 is obviously The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Now, I absolutely love this trilogy. It is the best trilogy that has ever been made, and I will say that hands down, and I will always defend it against the haters who are clearly wrong. Okay, I'm kidding, alright? If you don't like it, that's up to you. But yeah, something about Lord of the Rings, the fantasy of the entire thing. Like, obviously, it was a series of books, and Tolkien is an absolute fucking genius. The characters, Frodo, Sam, Gandalf, Legolas, Gimli, going on this huge adventure. Now, it may seem like something like Lord of the Rings and how big this world is would be such a complicated story, but it really, all it is moving this one ring of power from the Shire to Mount Doom over the course of 3 movies, and they managed to make such a simple premise like that, stretch it out into 3 films, but not make it feel like filler, like a lot of other films do. I've seen a lot of films where characters are trying to get from A to B in certain things, and all they do is have these like wacky montages that go on and different scenes that don't really have any relevance to the actual plot. Lord of the Rings gets this bang on with all 3 films, but in particular, The Fellowship of the Ring is what set everything up. It sets the characters up, it sets the dynamic of everything up. The battle scenes are amazing. By all means, I don't think this is the best Lord of the Rings film. I will get into that very, very shortly, because yeah, I think I've kind of ruined the next 2 years, haven't I? But, you know, who cares? Lord of the Rings is an absolute masterpiece, and yeah, I'm just going to go straight on and talk about the next one right now, The Two Towers, in 2002. The Lord of the Rings The Two Towers did everything a sequel should. It gave you more of what you had before. This time it's not just focused on like the Fellowship. The Fellowship is broken at this point. This is more about the war, and it stretches out this massive battle scene in Helm's Deep. I mean, most of it beforehand is mainly just walking and talking, but there's still something so compelling about that. It's not just about the action scenes in Lord of the Rings. There's so much stuff going on with the woodland realm, the Mines of Moria, where the Mines of Moria were in the last film, but yeah, that's still relevant in the point I'm trying to make. Lord of the Rings, there's just so many things about it, and I would love to dive into the series one day and review all three films, because I've always wanted to do a video series like that where I talk about an absolute perfect trilogy of films, and Lord of the Rings was one of the ones I wanted to do. So I will eventually get around to that one day once I find a bit of a rhythm going. But yeah, The Two Towers, I absolutely love this film. It has probably one of the greatest battle sequences that I've ever seen in my life within Helm's Deep. I mean, as much as I prefer The Lord of the Rings Return of the King, the battle at Helm's Deep is definitely the best of all the battle scenes throughout this entire trilogy. And I could talk about this franchise forever. I really, really could, because it's just that good. Okay then, but I'm going to move on to the third film now. The year 2003, obviously, I just stated it, Lord of the Rings Return of the King. Now, what I like about this, now maybe some people will say that the ending stretched out a little too long, and yeah, maybe that's kind of true, maybe they could have shortened it a little bit, but other than that, I don't really have any other problems with the rest of the film. It brought a great conclusion to everything that was building up from the first film, from Frodo leaving the Shire, going all the way to Mount Doom to destroy this ring. The battle in Helm's Deep, the Battle of Gondor, just everything about this world comes to a really satisfying conclusion. I don't think I've seen it being done this well. I mean, I've seen a lot of films which have great conclusions. I mean, I thought Avengers Endgame did a pretty good conclusion to the MCU. I mean, obviously Marvel is going to continue, but Lord of the Rings, I don't think any conclusion has nailed it as well as this one. But yeah, I think with these past three films that I've mentioned, I pretty much talked about the whole franchise as a whole rather than them individually. So yeah, I'm just going to move on. I will save any other thing I want to say for a future review, because I definitely plan on doing one at some point. Alright then, so let's move on to 2004. In the year 2004, I was kind of tossed up between The Incredibles and Spider-Man 2, but overall I think I prefer Spider-Man 2. Now, this film has, I've always liked it. It's always been one of my favourite superhero films, but rewatching it recently when I was trying to prepare myself for a video, which I'll probably never get around to at this point. But yeah, when I rewatched it, I did notice a lot more problems than I did on the first watch, but I still really, really enjoyed this film. Better than the first one, not quite, but what I do like about it is that if you want to make a film and you want your protagonist to be sympathised with, all you need to do is literally just make his life a complete living hell. Like, beat the shit out of him, make everything in his life go wrong, and that's what they do to poor Peter Parker in this film. And it's just so compelling just to see this guy try and balance his life between Spider-Man and Peter Parker. Like, it's like two separate personas. I mean, it's not like, MCU style of superheroes where like the public know who these people are. Everybody knows that Tony Stark is Iron Man. Everybody knows Steve Rogers is Captain America, but nobody knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And that's what I think the most interesting about it. I like the idea of superheroes being in disguise and keeping it secret from the public, trying to hide their secret from the public because they don't want the exploitation. And it also gave us Alfred Molina, which is probably one of my favourite Spider-Man villains yet. Like, Doc Ock is an absolute awesome character. And if what it says online is true, if he really is coming back for Spider-Man No Way Home, by the way, I didn't really like that title. Yeah, if he is coming back for that film, I can't wait to see what they do with him. Overall, Spider-Man 2, I think, is still a pretty solid superhero film, and it's definitely the best that I saw in 2004. Okay, let's move on. 2005, I have a soft spot for this film. I mean, it is Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. Now, overall, the prequels aren't great films. I think we can all vouch for that. We can say that the prequels aren't great. But I have a soft spot for this film in particular. I think it's because it's definitely one of the most solid. Definitely the most solid out of all the prequels. That Star Wars Clone Wars Season 7 ending only made this film even better and made me appreciate it more. It fixed most of the problems that most of the prequels had. Stretched out Anakin's anger to the dark side. I mean, okay, I may as well talk about Clone Wars in a separate video at this point. Okay, Revenge of the Sith. I think what I do like about it as well is the whole abundance of action, locations, and lightsaber battles. There are so many lightsaber battles in this film, I completely lost count. And yeah, the ending one between Obi-Wan and Anakin, although it does look completely batshit insane, and it looks like it's a little too well choreographed because they're flipping around, and it kind of looks like dance moves in some aspects. But I still find that scene incredibly entertaining, and I still rewatch Revenge of the Sith to this day. It's not one of my favourite Star Wars films of all time, but I think it's definitely close to the top because it's honestly... The writing may not be that good and the line delivery may be a little bit bad in places, but I think the story that they're trying to tell, the story of Order 66, is so tragic and immersive. And I think that if it was told just a little better, a bit like Clone Wars told it so much better, a live-action version of that would have been pretty good. I mean, at this point, I was really hoping that they would just remake the entirety of Revenge of the Sith in Clone Wars style, and I think I would have been happy. But yeah, watching Clone Wars just made me appreciate this film even more. I love the characters. Hayden Christensen is... Yeah, he's pretty terrible in places, but I've always vouched for the guy that I think if he had the right kind of direction and the right kind of script, I reckon this guy could give us a blast of a performance. I mean, I think he does have it in him. Just no one wants to hire him because all they see is whiny Anakin from Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. Not fair, come on guys. Give Hayden Christensen a chance. The guy's a good actor. I can see it. 2006, I'm going to go with Rocky Balboa. Now, I don't remember much about it because I've only seen it once, so I will try and remember some key points. But I do remember really enjoying it when I first watched it. Rocky comes out of retirement because there's something in him that tells him that he needs to fight again. And it's about, bonding with his son, finding his way in life again. I mean, Rocky at this point, if you remember the fifth Rocky film, he's no longer rich anymore. He no longer has all this money and fame. Rocky is now running some kind of restaurant in this film, and he feels that the only way he could get back out into the spotlight, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I have only seen the film once, to get back out into the spotlight and prove that he's still worth something is to fight again. And I thought overall the boxing match itself was pretty entertaining, one of the best, I wouldn't say one of the best, I still think that the fight between Apollo Creed and Rocky in Rocky 2 is still probably my favourite. But of what I remember of Rocky Balboa, there was so much emotion that went into it, and so many great moments, and that amazing speech that Rocky gave his son about you can't blame other people for your failures in life. You've got to get up and chase that dream. That is an absolutely amazing scene, amazing speech. And funny enough, I actually saw that speech on a Facebook video way before I even saw the film. So I already found that scene in particular quite compelling and quite inspiring. And then when I saw it in the film, I was like, oh, it's this film. This is the film that it's in. Yeah, it was just really interesting to see. And yeah, overall, I will want to rewatch the Rocky films one day because I want to know a little more about this film and to see if I still would put it at the top of 2006, but I can't really think of anything else that I would put above it at the moment. So yeah, Rocky Balboa, I love it. Amazing film. 2007, Don't Hate Me, the first Transformers by Michael Bay. Now, this film is absolutely fucking insane. There are so many, dumb things that happen in it, and so many over-the-top explosions and wacky-ass characters. But for some reason, there's something about it which I just love. Okay, I wonder how many people are going to unsubscribe because of this, because yes, I am a fan of Michael Bay's Transformers films. Are they good? No, they're not. They're not good. They really aren't. But what I do like about them is that they're quite quotable. I mean, especially the interrogation scene where it's you've got the blonde Australian girl and you've got Anthony Anderson. He's there as well, and his advice that he's giving to this girl about if you want to avoid interrogation, if you don't want them to break you, you eat their food. And he's like, I eat the plate, the whole plate. Don't talk to me, criminal. Oh, sugar rush. It's just so many lines like that which just make it so quotable. And again, it's a stupid film. It's a stupid, dumb film, but I will rewatch it over and over again for the entertainment aspect of it. 2008, I'm going to go with The Dark Knight by Christopher Nolan. This is probably one of my favourite superhero films of all time. Not only that, but it's also a great crime thriller. in terms of mixing it with the superhero aspect as well. Now, if you remember Batman and Robin that came out in 1997, it was so bad that there was like any hope of a good Batman film was just completely flushed down the toilet. If I'm excluding animated Batman films, we didn't really have anything good until The Dark Knight arrived. And when it arrived, it blew people's minds. I mean, Heath Ledger, oh my god, what an iconic performance. Now, Joaquin Phoenix was good in 2019's Joker, but to me, Heath Ledger is still the best Joker. Such an iconic performance. This is the performance that made me fall in love with the character of the Joker. Just this batshit insane person who does the shit that he does because he fucking wants to, not because he has any villainous motivations. He just likes to thrive off the pain of others, and Heath Ledger captured that perfectly. Sadly, the guy is no longer with us, and that's a shame because he is a really good actor. Christian Bale as Batman, on the other hand, I thought he was pretty good as well. I know people have memed to death like he's Growl because it is pretty funny if you think about it, but there are so many iconic quotes and lines and moments in this entire film that made Batman what Batman is. Batman is supposed to be dark, gritty, and sort of depressing in places because this guy is fighting like Gotham's worst, the world's worst sort of criminals, and turning it into something goofy like Batman and Robin just doesn't work. But when you watch The Dark Knight, this is what Batman is supposed to be, and I'm really looking forward to what Matt Reeves does with Robert Pattinson as Batman. Is it the end of this year or is it next year? I think it's next year at this point, because of the fucking pandemic. But yeah, The Dark Knight, absolutely fantastic film. The Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker anyway, is probably one of my all-time favourite comic book villainous performances overall. Maybe second to Josh Brolin as Thanos. No, Heath Ledger's better. Okay, moving on to 2009. I'm going to go with James Cameron's Avatar. Yes, I do plan to talk about this film and match it up against Avengers Endgame very soon. I will try and get that out very quickly, but I will be taking my time with it. So, yeah, sorry about that, but I prefer quality over quantity. So anyway, what I really like about Avatar, I'm only going to brush over this really quickly because I want to save most of the big points for that video. But what I really liked about it is the fact that it had all this exposition about it, and it told it beautifully in just this one film. The one thing that it gets right over Avengers Endgame is that Avengers Endgame has like 11 years of like Marvel films and 20 odd films to back it up. This film did it all in one, and the special effects to this day still hold up incredibly well. The story is somewhat original. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's been like other films where like natives have been drove out of a home before, but I haven't seen it done quite as well as Avatar. And yeah, I think Avatar definitely has reclaimed its rightful spot at the top. But yeah, I will dive into more specifics in that video when it's up. 2010, I'm going to go with Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Now, a lot of people will be thinking, Jim Bob, what about Inception? I haven't seen it, so I can't put it there, I'm afraid. But of what I remember of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, I've only seen it once. But what I do like about it is the fact that it's just so over the top and insane. And I know I've said that about a lot of films on this list. I know that Transformers is a batshit insane film as well. But at least Scott Pilgrim was quite self-aware of this, and the wacky stuff that happened in it made sense. Like, Scott is trying to win the heart of this girl, and he has to fight her 7 ex-boyfriends. And even Chris Evans is in this film, and it's just so bizarre and over the top. And it just works for the kind of film they were going for. Now, I actually didn't realise that Scott Pilgrim was a video game until like recently. So if I'm going to pick the best video game of all time, it's got to be this one. Yeah, definitely Scott Pilgrim. For the year of 2011, I'm going to go with Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Now, overall, I do enjoy the Harry Potter films. I don't think they're as good as most people make them out to be. Now, I can definitely see the appeal of the franchise and why so many people love it. But it's just never really clicked with me as much as it has like other people. But I do enjoy these films, and especially this epic climax. We have like Harry finally facing off against Voldemort, and it's actually the shortest film in the franchise if I really think about it, because there were 2 parts to it. But if I'm excluding all those parts and just leaving this one as on its own, we have like this epic battle going on at Hogwarts, some iconic characters dying, and like some of it doesn't feel earned. Like, for example, Professor Snape's redemption arc, if you can even call it a redemption arc. It didn't feel like it was that immersive, like that emotionally impactful. But other than that, the rest of the film I thought was pretty damn good. I mean, I love Ralph Fiennes. Is it Ralph Fiennes? Yeah, I think it's Ralph Fiennes. I love his performance as Voldemort and just this rivalry that he has with Harry. Obviously, over the years, Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint have just all gotten better at acting. Obviously, I don't know what you can expect from an 11-year-old kid when they're thrown into this huge franchise, but definitely the acting has gotten better over the years, the performances have got better over the years, the films get darker and darker, and this just brought it to an epic conclusion. Yeah, this film is pretty damn good. For the year 2012, I'm going to go with the first Avengers film. This is it's called The Avengers in the US and Avengers Assemble in Europe, which is a bit weird. But anyway, so since I live in Europe, I'm going to go with Avengers Assemble because that's the title of the film where I'm from. Now, this was the first time that I saw all these iconic characters from Marvel all grouped up in like one film, battling evil, and it was just so friggin' awesome. I mean, especially that one scene where all the Avengers are standing in a circle, backs to each other, the camera rotates around them, Iron Man's flying down to just slot into the one spot where he is. It's just such an iconic moment, and I think this is the first time that people actually saw like a huge like collaboration of different characters all in one. I mean, you can't. I suppose you could count X-Men. I suppose you could count the Fantastic Four, but none of those films are anywhere near as good as the first Avengers film. Like, if I'm excluding great films like Logan compared to the first Avengers, that's just a bit different. But I'm on about superhero teams, and I think the one which will come to mind mostly when you think of what was the first time you remember something being so epic where there were so many superheroes together at once? You think of the first Avengers. Yeah, I love this film. I don't think it's as good as Infinity War or Endgame, but I definitely think it's just a little bit better than Age of Ultron. But yeah, great film. For 2013, I'm going with The Wolf of Wall Street. Now, this is actually a film that I've only seen recently, and it is one of those films that you need to be in the mood to watch because it's incredibly lengthy. You're talking over 3 hours, but once you watch it for the first time and you get a gist of what it is, and it's basically about these people, a real life event actually. I think Jordan something. I've forgotten the guy's name, but Leonardo DiCaprio basically plays a guy called Jordan, and he runs this like company of people who manipulate the stock market. Now, I know nothing about the stock market, how it works, how all this shareholder bullshit works. It's a little confusing to me, but when you watch this film, you don't necessarily have to understand how the stock market works to find it damn entertaining, because it really, really is. Leonardo DiCaprio probably gives my favourite performance that I've ever seen him do. I mean, there are still loads and loads of DiCaprio films that I still haven't seen, but this is the most memorable by far for me. I mean, he plays this such an unlikable, arrogant bastard, but for some reason he still makes him compelling enough for you to want to root for him. And this guy is committing something extremely illegal. He's scamming millions and millions of dollars out of these different companies and making himself stupid, filthy rich. And for some reason there's something about that you just, you know what, don't catch this guy. Just give us more hours of this guy just talking on the phone, slagging off people who work at McDonald's for some reason. Like, there's something about his character and just everything going on around it, and just the overall bizarreness of the film, which keeps you immersed for those 3 hours. It never feels boring. I mean, you've got all these people in Wall Street who are manipulating the stock market. They're on the phone, scamming people, taking drugs in the office. Martin Scorsese, whatever the guy's name is, yeah. He's a great director, and I really, really enjoy most of his films, but I think this is probably my favourite. Yeah, definitely The Wolf of Wall Street for 2013. Right, guys, we are almost towards the end. I'm getting extremely tired, so I'm going to try and power through this next bit, but still give you enough details to go along with. Alright, so 2014, I'm going to go with Guardians of the Galaxy. That's the first Guardians of the Galaxy film. Now, I really wasn't looking forward to this when I first saw the trailer for it. It seemed a bit abnormal for something for Marvel to do. It seemed like very much like a Star Wars movie, or fucking one of the latest Star Trek films from J.J. Abrams. It pretty much struck me as something like that. And when I watched it, damn was I wrong. Like, these characters, I absolutely love the characters in this film. You know, you got Peter Quill, Rocket, Drax, Gamora, Groot. Every single one of them plays a vital role in everything that goes down, and I think it's the overall bizarreness of the film which is what makes it work the most. I think if you try and make characters like this and make it too serious, then people are not going to be immersed in it as much as they would be if it were a comedy. Now, this is very much a sci-fi comedy with a bit of action in it as well, and I think it pulls it off in many aspects. Like, I'm not too fond of the ending and how the big bad was destroyed in the end, but still, overall, I can't help but just love these characters. It's a feel-good film. I think this is the one film that I always put on whenever I'm feeling down about something, because it's got that feel-good vibe to it, with the classical 70s and 80s soundtrack, quirky characters, great comedy, really iconic lines, and yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy is just an overall great film in my opinion. The second Guardians of the Galaxy film, I'm not so sure if I would call it great, but the first one definitely goes down in the history books as something which I will keep rewatching over and over again. But if I'm comparing Guardians of the Galaxy to many other films that I've seen, which I mentioned on this list, it wouldn't be very high at all. But for the year of 2014, it's the one that did it for me. And 2014 was a pretty damn good year for film, if you ask me. So yeah, impressive. The year 2015, I have to go with Star Wars The Force Awakens. Now, this film, I was hyped as hell for it. I can't remember a time where I was ever so hyped for a film. 10 years had passed since we had any sort of Star Wars content. Now that Disney owns Star Wars, we've been getting Star Wars content every few years. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that, as long as they make something original, which is something which they don't seem to be doing at the moment. But The Force Awakens set up this brand new sort of story leading directly off 30 years from The Return of the Jedi. We have Rey, Finn, Poe. You know, we have a pretty solid cast here, pretty solid characters as well. Kylo Ren, mind you, is probably the best character in the sequel trilogy. But unfortunately, for me personally, this is the only decent film in the sequel trilogy, and then it goes a bit downhill afterwards, and I think we all know why. It's like J.J. Abrams built a really, really nice looking sandcastle, a beautiful sandcastle that he was really, really proud of, and then the big beach bully Rian Johnson came over and kicked the fucking thing over, ruining everything that he made. And I keep wondering to myself, what would the franchise have been like had one director stuck with all three films? I mean, maybe it wouldn't have worked because J.J. Abrams is pretty good at setting up stuff and the whole mystery and everything, but concluding things, not as much. But the thing is about the original trilogy as well. The original trilogy did have different directors as well, but there was a certain flow that went in between all three of them, which made it work. George Lucas did all three of the prequels himself, so yeah, that's kind of understandable. But it's like these three films, The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker, just feel like completely different things, and the directors just did what the hell they wanted. They were given too much creative freedom, I think, and I've just turned talking about The Force Awakens into a rant about the sequels, haven't I? But yeah, I thought The Force Awakens was a pretty damn good film. It's just a shame that all this quite interesting setup, an interesting character within Rey and Finn and Poe, just didn't really go anywhere after this film, unfortunately. But yeah, it is overall a great film, and I do enjoy The Force Awakens quite a lot. 2016, I'm going to go with Makoto Shinkoi's Your Name, which is an anime. Now, this is the first probably anime film that I would rank as the best of a certain year. I mean, there's something about Your Name which really, really hits those emotional beats. We've got two characters. We have Taki and Mitsuha, and they don't know each other. They're from different parts of the country in different years, and they somehow manage to connect with each other through like some kind of cosmic events and everything like that. And because of their wisdom and knowledge of what's going on in each timeline, they're able to prevent a certain disaster and eventually find each other. But since they're in different timelines, unless they remember each other's names, they're going to completely forget about each other because they technically don't know each other within that same timeline, if that makes sense. You'll have to watch it for yourself to completely understand what it's like, but definitely Your Name hits so many emotional beats, and I teared up like crazy. Now, is it the best anime film that I've ever watched in my life? No, it's not, but as of 2016, it is, and it's one of the most compelling ones that I've ever watched. The colour The colour scheme and the animation is absolutely beautiful. The colours pop out on the screen. It's really bright and vibrant. And it's just a really gorgeous looking film. So overall, if you like anime and if you like drama, if you like supernatural elements mixed in with a bit of real life drama, then Your Name is definitely a must watch. The year of 2017, I'm going to go with War for the Planet of the Apes. Now, I was tossed up between this film and Logan, but I think overall I definitely enjoyed War for the Planet of the Apes a little more. Maybe the backup of the first two films leading up to this one helped it a little bit, because this rebooted Planet of the Apes trilogy is absolutely incredible. Now, people would say that it has a misleading title, which it kind of does in some aspects, because you expect this huge all-out war between the humans and the apes, but it's really just a war between like Caesar and his inner demons, and I think it portrayed it extremely well. Like, never would I think that I would care for a character who doesn't have that much dialogue behind him, who mainly communicates through sign language or just general body language in general, that I would find this character so like interesting and like sympathize with this creature. And because at first I thought when this franchise was a thing, it was just going to be like every other movie with like a CGI sort of animal in it. It would be like mainly focusing on the humans but have the CGI animal there. And the Planet of the Apes trilogy doesn't do that. It's definitely about Caesar, it's about the apes, and it's about their journey going through just becoming lab rats to basically conquering the planet and becoming like the rulers, the new rulers of this world. And I think this trilogy of the Planet of the Apes is definitely a must-watch. It had no right to be as good as it was. It was just absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait to rewatch those. Maybe that's another video I'll do one day, because I did say I'd do it before, which I never got around to it. When I mentioned earlier on in this video where I'll do a trilogy video on Lord of the Rings, I might also do one on this trilogy as well. Like, again, these are just ideas. I'm not confirming anything, so I won't expect it anytime soon. But yeah, this film is absolutely breathtaking, and I will rewatch it time and time again. The year 2018, we are almost there, guys. We are almost on the home stretch. I'm going to go with Avengers Infinity War. This is probably one of my favourite superhero films of all time. Now, is it better than Avengers Endgame? Yeah, it is. I mean, Avengers Endgame had plenty of iconic moments, but I'll get into that in a minute. What I liked most about Infinity War was the fact that this villain who hasn't really popped up in many other Marvel films since. We've seen a couple of cameos from him in Guardians of the Galaxy and a post-credit scene in Age of Ultron. But this time Thanos is actually here, and he is so compelling, such a devastating threat. This is the first time that I've ever seen a superhero film, especially within the MCU, where I felt a sense of danger, like the characters were in danger, and that any of these characters could easily lose their lives at any minute. And yeah, that is the case in some aspects. Thanos does kill off our heroes, like 3 of them, or is it 4? I think it's 4 of them actually. Yeah, and so you see this happen, and it's just shocking just seeing this big guy. Like, this guy is so powerful and nobody can stop him. There were multiple Avengers tackle this guy at once in Wakanda and just completely fail. And with the power of the Infinity Stones behind his belt as well, he's almost unstoppable. I mean, if you notice within the first opening few minutes of the film, he completely lays into the Hulk. He kicks the Hulk's ass, drops him on the floor. The Hulk is completely out of it for the rest of the film. Like, he won't even come out to face Thanos again when he's inside Bruce Banner, because he just knows that he failed. And so that's how devastating Thanos is as a character. If you can scare the Hulk enough to not come out and fight, then you really are like a dangerous threat. But it's not only that, the performances of each and every character are absolutely incredible. Now, I don't think the Avengers as characters are stretched out as near enough as much as they are in Endgame, but Endgame was more focused on them getting back at Thanos. This is more about Thanos conquering the universe. Now, the only thing which I take slight issue with is that it's a little bit choppy in places, but that's kind of understandable due to the fact of how many characters were actually in the film. So yeah, Avengers Infinity War is overall just a fantastic superhero movie. The year of 2019, I'm going to go with Avengers Endgame. Now, overall, I've rewatched Avengers Endgame like multiple times since I first watched it, and it has declined a little bit for me. There are certain bits of it which I don't find like as good as I did when I first watched it, but it's still an absolutely amazing film. Now, there are some time travel elements in it that don't entirely make sense. Now, on the subjective side of things, I'm not too bothered about it, but I am acknowledging that it's like, huh? For the one scene, for example, if you can't change your future by going to the past in this film, how was Steve Rogers able to appear on that bench talking to Sam as an old man? Wouldn't it have been a completely different timeline? There's just little stuff like that in the film which can be a little off-putting for some people. I mean, I look at it sometimes and think, But overall, it doesn't bother me that much. I like how it concluded a lot of things that the MCU have been building up to for 11 years. It concluded Tony Stark and a very, really emotional death scene. It completed a brilliant arc for Steve as well. It just completed a lot of things, and it just wrapped up a lot of things nicely. I don't think the deaths in the film were anywhere near as sad, really, like as Infinity War, because I kind of already knew they were coming, thanks to one spoiler was by my drunken friend. And the second spoiler was like some stupid kid outside the cinema. Yeah, so I already knew what characters were going to die in Endgame, and so, but I was still pretty struck by both of them, but not as much as I was in Infinity War. And the last film on this list, people, we have made it to the end. Thank you very much if you stuck by me. 2020 is Parasite. Now, I want to throw in a quick disclaimer, which I feel like I have to do all the time. Parasite is technically a 2019 film as well, but it didn't come out over here in the UK where I live until February 2020. So to me, it's a 2020 film. Now, this is actually the first like full South Korean film that I ever sat through. Now, I mean, before this, I'd watch K-dramas on Netflix and stuff like that, and I wasn't really that big on subtitled films back then. But after watching Parasite, it struck me as there are so many great films out there, and as Bong Joon-ho even said himself, if you can get past the barrier of subtitles, you'll be introduced to so many more great films. And since then, I will watch anything. Even if I have to read subtitles, I will watch it. I mean, I recently watched some pretty amazing films from South Korea, some amazing films from Japan as well. I even sat and watched like French dramas and even one Spanish comedy. I will sit through that shit now, because at first it was a bit difficult to read subtitles at a certain pace because they would go off screen so quickly, but now that I've watched that many of them, I look at it, done, I've read the whole thing, moving on. So, yeah. But what I do like about Parasite the most is the fact that there's a huge depiction on the poor and the rich. You have the rich Parks and the poor Kims. And this poor Kim family win their way into the household of this Park family and take advantage of everything. When they're threatened with exposure, shit hits the fan, and the ending is a complete bloodbath. And I had no idea just how much of a crazy ending that would be. I looked at it and thought, whoa, that escalated extremely quickly. It really escalated quickly. And just overall, Parasite is just, I think it's an absolute masterpiece. Like, I absolutely loved the film. I'll rewatch it again and again and again as the years goes on. South Korea, overall, I've become a huge fan of their films, their TV shows, just Korean cinema in general. I think is really damn good. And in most places, I'm starting to prefer it over more Western cinema. But I still love a lot of Western cinema as well, so that's not going anywhere. But overall, Parasite is the best film that I saw in 2020. So there we go, guys. Every film from every year that I've been alive. I hope you enjoyed this really, really lengthy video. I know that I haven't really heavily edited it or scripted the video like I usually do with this sort of stuff, but I just wanted to try something different, like a more podcast-based sort of video. So let me know if you want something a little like this in future, but the main focus will be the way I usually edit videos, which is not showing my ugly mush. And yeah, just using like footage and clips and stuff like that. As always, I hope you have a fantastic day. If you like what I do here, consider clicking that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. Remember, it's not just a movie, it's an experience. Stay awesome, everyone, and have a good day.